Hey everyone, Robin from Backscatter here. In this video, we're going to break down the best settings for the Olympus TG-6 camera when shooting macro photos with a strobe. No other camera makes shooting macro as easy as the TG-6 does, thanks to its super close focusing ability and the easy to use design and operation of the camera. Macro photo is one of the things the TG-6 does best, so we've created this settings guide to get you the most ideal macro results in the easiest way possible. Let's take a look at the settings. We're going to spend this video breaking down each of these settings one by one and why they're important for shooting great macro photos. We've separated the settings into two categories, on the boat and in the water. On the boat settings can be set once and basically forgotten about, while your in the water settings might need to be adjusted while you're shooting. This is going to help us minimize the amount of time that we spend messing around with the camera underwater and instead only focus on the important details that we need to really make the shot. These settings are also available for you to download at the link in the video description, so be sure to save a copy and tuck them in your gear bag. Now before we get hands-on with the TG-6, let's quickly break down what makes a good macro photo and what we're trying to achieve with these settings. Macro is all about the smaller side of things, with a tight field of view and an emphasis on the details of small subjects. When we say small, we mean subjects that are generally about the size of a golf ball or smaller. The TG-6 has enough zoom and close focus ability to shoot subjects that are ridiculously small and easily qualify as super macro, so we want to take advantage of this and play to the camera's main strength. Traditional macro photos have two key elements that we're trying to achieve: sharp focus on a critical area of the subject, like an eyeball, and a nice dark background that helps the subject stand out from its environment. These are the goals that we want to keep in mind when composing and taking our shots. In order to get that dark background, we need to make the photo itself really dark and allow the strobe to provide illumination on our subject. The built-in flash on just the camera itself isn't nearly strong enough to achieve this, especially when it's tucked inside the housing. A strobe is the best way to get these results. If you really wanted the fastest and easiest way possible to shoot macro with the TG-6, you could just rotate the mode dial to the fish icon and then select the underwater macro shooting mode. This is going to automatically assign some basic exposure and color settings, and honestly, it's not that bad for the beginner, but we can do all this and more easily with our custom settings, so why limit ourselves? Anyway, let's get started with the camera in hand. There's a few on the boat set and forget things that we need to knock out first. Unless your camera is brand new straight out of the box, it's a good idea to do a full reset to start with a blank slate. This reset is going to take care of everything except for the date, time, and language. We'll cover the settings on the camera assuming that it's in this default state. Hit the main menu, select Shooting Menu 1, then select Reset Assign Custom Modes, select Full, and OK again. Next step is to turn on the Live View Boost. This is going to brighten the preview image on screen, making it easier for us to see what it is we're shooting. Go to the main menu, scroll down to Custom Menu or the gear icon, select Page B, and then select Live View Boost and set it to On. We'll now have a brighter preview and our scene will be much easier to actually see on the LCD screen. Then rotate the mode dial to the A icon for Aperture Priority Mode. This is going to allow us to manually set our aperture value, which will help us control the exposure and allow us to get that nice dark background. Now that we're in Aperture Priority Mode, just rotate that top dial to adjust your aperture value or your f-stop. The TG-6 has 3 different values available based on the zoom level of the camera. If we zoom all the way in, then we can get to f/18, which is the tightest aperture and therefore the best option for creating a dark background and getting us the most generous depth of field. When we're shooting macro, we pretty much always want to be zoomed all the way in anyway, so this is kind of a 2-for-1 setting because we're just going to keep the camera zoom at max most of the time. Next, we'll set our exposure compensation down to -2 stops. This will help the camera run a faster shutter speed for our dark background. Just press up on the D-pad and then either use the left button or the top dial to turn the exposure compensation down all the way to -2.0. ISO is the camera sensor's degree of light sensitivity. A higher ISO means a brighter but also a noisier image, so we want to keep this value as low as possible for both a dark background and maximum image quality. Our strobe is going to be plenty bright enough so that we can just keep the ISO at its minimum value. Hit the OK button to bring up the quick menu, select ISO, set it to 100, and then hit OK again. We don't even have to do anything for this next step. We really just want to make sure that the white balance is set to auto because we're going to be working really close up using the light produced by our strobe. We're never really going to be far enough away from our subject to lose any color, so just keeping auto white balance is ideal and easy. In order to be able to focus super close on tiny critters, we need to set the autofocus range to the super macro setting. Once again, hit OK for the quick menu, head down to autofocus, and then change that setting to AF Super Macro. This will allow us to focus on subjects that are basically touching the camera lens, or we can back off to be about a foot away. The only catch here is that in order for the camera to focus at all in AF Super Macro mode, you have to be zoomed in at least 1.2 times. That's just about one little click on the zoom lever. This really shouldn't be an issue since we're already zoomed in all the way most of the time, but just keep that in mind. When it comes to image quality, we do have some options. The TG-6 will shoot in both RAW and JPEG, or both of those simultaneously. RAW images are uncompressed and are awesome for developing and editing without losing any quality, whereas JPEG is a ready-to-publish compressed image that doesn't have as much room for non-destructive editing. If you're using a program like Adobe Lightroom to edit your RAW images, then we recommend just shooting in RAW. But if you're not there yet, would rather just have a quick photo to share, then JPEG is just fine. Just make sure that you're selecting the highest quality JPEG. So just choose whichever option here makes the most sense for your editing and workflow. Next, we'll go down to the flash in the quick menu and set that to fill in. The fill-in setting is essentially automatic flash power that will fire with every shot. We need the flash to fire every time to trigger our strobe, and we need it in the fill-in mode to properly sync with the TTL setting on our strobe. Make sure that strobe is set to TTL, which is its automatic setting. This will allow the strobe to automatically fire at the correct power based on your exposure settings, and you won't have to do anything other than play with its position. This is the easiest way to guarantee near perfect strobe power in just about every shot. Different strobes do have different TTL modes, and it could be called STTL, DSTTL, Slave TTL, Optical TTL, whatever. They're all effectively the same thing. If you need help dialing this in on your particular strobe, just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out. So that does it for our on the boat settings. Everything we just did can be set once and forgotten about as long as you're shooting macro photos. Now let's get into what we actually need to know during the dive and what needs to be adjusted in the water, which actually isn't all that much. It's basically just about composition and strobe position. Once you've located your macro subject, the first thing we need to do is just get nice and close. A good starting point is about 6 inches away. This should be close enough to get most small subjects appearing pretty large in the frame, while hopefully being just far enough back to avoid spooking that subject. If the subject is a little larger or a little more shy, you might need to back up a few inches. If it's really tiny or really cooperative, then push in little by little until you can get that tightest shot possible. Just work it a little bit at a time and see how tight of a shot you can pull off. We always want to make sure that the sharpest element of our image is the most crucial detail on our subject. 99% of the time, this is going to be a subject's eyeball or otherwise a defining feature, like a nudibranch rhinophore, for example. That feeling of eye contact with our subject is one of the best ways to really draw the viewer in, so this is a primary macro goal. Line up the center of the frame with the eyeball, the face, or whatever, and half press the shutter to achieve autofocus. When the crosshair turns into a green box, you've achieved focus, and then fully press the shutter to capture your shot. Depending on where the crucial detail is in your frame, you might need to do a half press, recompose, and then hit the shutter to line up the shot just how you want it. Just be sure not to change your shooting distance too much, or your focus can be off. Now, let's get our strobe dialed in. For almost all macro shots, we want to keep that strobe high and overhead of the camera, angled just a little bit towards our subject. This high position is going to preserve some shadow underneath the subject, giving a nice contrast and helping that thing stand out from its environment. Keep in mind, the strobe is producing a cone of light. We need to angle this cone like a spotlight onto our subject. You'll know if the angle is not right, because your light will not be hitting your subject, or you're going to be lighting up too much of the water right in front of the camera lens. This produces a ton of backscatter, or all that light that reflects off of the particles in the water. Now, don't be afraid to experiment with your strobe angle and position. Every scene and subject is going to have its own sweet spot. Just remember, preserve some shadow and contrast, avoid lighting up the water right in front of the lens, and then just walk it in one shot at a time from there. There may not be one magic strobe position that works for every shot, but there is one rule that we can follow that'll help us find that sweet spot. Always try to keep an equal distance between the strobe and the camera lens and the subject and the lens. If your subject is 6 inches in front of the camera, keep that strobe about 6 inches up over the housing. As you pull a little farther back from the subject, raise that strobe up, or bring it in tighter as you move in closer. Maintain this relatively equal distance and strobe position, and your shots will just about always be free of backscatter and have near perfect exposure. From here, all that's really left to do is take the shot, check it out, make any adjustments, and then repeat until you nail it. Line everything up, focus on the critical detail area, take the shot, and then take a hard look at it. Bring that image up on screen and check it out. Zoom in and move it around to look at the fine details. Did you get the eye in focus? Is your background dark? Does your subject stand out? Is your strobe position creating the look that you want? Think about these details and then spend as much time as you need to, or as long as your subject will allow you to, until you get that shot. Just shoot, review, make adjustments, and repeat until you get the perfect one, or until either Mother Nature or your dive master dictates otherwise. Trust us, it is always better to spend a few more minutes shooting and making sure you get it, rather than realizing far too late after the dive that it was a little off. So that's pretty much it. You set up a handful of things on the boat, pay attention to your composition, focus, and the strobe placement while you're underwater, and you're pretty much ready to start mastering macro photos with the Olympus TG-6 and a strobe. Remember, download these settings, keep them with your camera gear for reference, and also check out the rest of this series for the best settings for pretty much every shooting style underwater, and some of the more advanced settings to get the most out of this amazing compact camera. Help us keep making awesome underwater imaging videos by purchasing your camera gear from us here at Backscatter. We actually dive, shoot, and service everything we sell, and no matter how big or small, your purchases always include free lifetime tech support. Anytime you need an answer about your gear, we're just a phone call or a quick message away. I'm Robin from Backscatter signing off. Thanks for watching, and happy shooting.